Welcome to a special G4 Guitar Teacher Hangout. What we're going to do in this episode is we're crossing it over to David Aldridge in the UK, and we're going to go through what it's like for a student to walk into his lesson. We're going to start right from the outside. We're going to walk through the entrance into where they're going to sit down. And the idea is that we just want to get a feel for how it feels from a student perspective in David's place, and then we're going to have a chat about it to see if we can improve on it, make any changes, just generally get a feel for how things are going. So I think David's getting set up now. So here's the student ready to go. So I'm going to cross over to David. And now, David, are you there? Can you hear me at all? Not sure.
I'm outside at the
Oh, you're
moment.
outside. Okay, good. So what'll happen, just so the camera goes to you, they'll need a bit of noise, so maybe if you can just sort of talk as you're walking through, is that okay?
All right, okay. Yeah.
All right, good. I'll put it on mute now, and then you just say heading into the building, whatever you like. It's just got to be some mic noise so that it actually switches to your camera. So here we go.
All right, okay. I'm heading into the building now.
Hi,
Hi,
you must be Emily,
Emily. Yeah.
and you're here for your first guitar lesson?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, do you want to come on through into this room?
Yeah, sure.
Uh, and if you'd like to take, and I'll just go and grab your starter kit.
All right, okay.
So this is your folder, Emily, and this contains all the materials you'll need through the 5-week intro.
Okay.
So in here we have pretty much all the skills that we discussed over the phone, like picking, the chords, and arpeggios. And I know you're a complete beginner, so this is all going to be really, really new for you.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions before we start?
Um,
Just if you like.
Not really, no. I'm excited to get started.
You're excited to get started. Yeah. All right. Okay, so let's just go into the folder and have a look at the practice schedules, and we're going to work out some times for you to practice.
Okay.
Okay, so in this folder we have your on the first sheet we have the practice schedule, and then on the second sheet we have the PL, which is called the practice log. So I'm just going to chat through these.
Sure.
First of all, and we're going to work out which is going to be the best time for you to practice each week.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And then we can get you started within some playing. Okay, so if we just chat through Monday, what would be your best time to practice?
I say in the evening.
In the evening?
Yeah.
So you're an evening person.
Definitely. Yeah.
And what do you do through the day, Emily?
Through the day, usually just well, it used to be college.
Used to be college.
Used to be college, yeah.
And you just left college now?
Yeah. Just recently. I'm looking for work mostly, so during the evening would be best. The best time to practice.
Good.
Yeah.
And that's the same for me too. I do most of my practice as well in the evening. Okay, so when we chat in the evening, we're thinking around about 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
8 o'clock. Okay. So because you're an adult, we're looking to do a minimum of 30 minutes practice per day. You can do more than that.
Yeah.
If you like, but the minimum is 30. So okay, let's write this in. So we're going to put 8 p.m. to 8:30. Okay, and how about Tuesday?
Probably be the same. Yeah, like the same time.
Same time on
Yeah.
Tuesday? Okay, and if we have a look at Wednesday?
Maybe a bit earlier, like around 5.
Okay. So 5 p.m. to 5:30.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Do you have any other hobbies, Emily?
Well, other than like coming here for like drum lessons and stuff. Yeah.
So I know you said that you studied art at college. So is that something that you're gonna keep moving forward with too?
Well, it was graphic design, and it wasn't really like for me. It was interesting whilst I was studying it, but I wouldn't want to take it forward. I think, but
And what kind of type of work are you looking to get into?
well, I like music.
So you want to get into music?
Yeah.
Good, good. So it's a good like the teaching side or maybe performing side?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, like good to look into.
Good. Okay, so how about Thursday?
Thursday about 8. Yeah.
About 8. Okay, and Friday?
Friday probably around 8 again, and then on the weekends probably a bit earlier, like around 4, 3, 4.
So we're looking for Saturday and Sunday, around about 4 p.m.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I recommend doing as well is I can always copy the sheet for you. You can stick it on your bedroom wall,
Okay.
the fridge, and it's always there, as a reminder. And what we want to do is to create a routine, which usually takes around 5 to 6 weeks. And then eventually, I guess you'll memorize your schedule. So do you have any questions about this?
What happens if you miss a practice?
If we miss a practice?
Yeah.
Good question. So usually what I suggest to students if they miss a practice is maybe to do more. You could spread that out by maybe doing 10 minutes extra on each day.
Yeah, okay.
Or you could, the next day, you could do an hour.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Okay. So that's the practice schedule. So let's turn the page. So the next page is the practice log. And this is a must. We record all practice in minutes, and you can see each column here is represents a month, and then we've got the dates of the month working down here. So we'll just write September, and you can see the same watermarks here. We've got 2020, and then so all the minutes go in the left-hand column that we practice each day, and then we put the running total in the right-hand column, and then each month we should have a total. And what we have here as well is what we call the top 3. So you've probably seen the board in the reception, yeah. And we have top 3 seniors, top 3 juniors. So the students who get the highest score.
So it's kind of like a competition as well.
I guess so, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it helps parents and things to see that as well, and see how much practice other students are doing as well.
Okay, yeah.
So if you want to turn it into a competition, I'm always for that too. Okay, so yeah, so we fill that in, and it's also good for me because I can see then each month how much practice you're.
Yeah, it's a good way of like monitoring how well you're doing, how far you've come as well.
Exactly. All right, so practice schedule, practice log, and then the next.
David, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, that'll do. That's great. Perfect. That'll give us enough to work with tonight or today, this morning in your time. Yeah, maybe just thank. Is it Emily? Is that right?
It is Emily. Yeah.
Emily, thanks very much, Emily. We can't see you, but you've done a fantastic job. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Cheers. Thank you. Just bear with me 1 second, David.
Yep. Sure. No problem. Just take a minute. How are you going there, Trevor? Were you watching all that?
Yeah, making notes, following it all.
Excellent, excellent. It's good to see somebody else go through the process, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, because although it's obviously we've got a sort of system, but everybody's got their own kind of slants on it, and so it's nice to get a different perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And there's, it's not a perfect science, so we're not trying to do, an exact routine. It's not like a song where we're trying to replicate exactly as it should be. But there are certain things that we do want to include, and things that we definitely want to try and improve on. And seeing David in action is going to really help there. And he did a great job. What we want to do really is you know look for things that he can work on and improve on, because if I sit here and praise him all day long, that's nice for his ego, but it's not going to improve his bottom line, his statistics, which is what we're looking for.
Sure.
So I'll be kind, but I'm going to try and get to things that are going to help you, David. So hang on, strap in, and we'll see if we can put a few comments in here to help you. So just before I do this, and what I like to do is to get your perspective, first of all, because when you go through it, especially when you do it like this, you're more aware of yourself. You're sort of thinking, well, okay, now I'm being watched, which is different to when nobody's really watching you. Is there anything that you think that you missed or you would do differently if you could do it again?
Yeah, usually I have more rapport building before we go into the room.
Yep.
Usually I chat a little bit more, so that was kind of missed, but it was just completely different because she's holding a computer and and it's like the communication. So, but usually, yeah, I would obviously have a couple of minutes chat before invite them into the teaching room.
Yeah. And I understand it's hard to have that rapport with a computer, and also when you know that it's being recorded and that everything you say is going to be stored on the internet forever. So I do understand. You got to be more cautious, and you're going to sort of think, wow. So that's why I'll try and be. I just want to be mindful of that as well. That where you're in a situation that's not your normal every day, and you don't have that flexibility that you normally would. So let's just go through the things, even though that you are probably going to be aware of them. Some of the things you would probably normally do have missed out today, but that's okay, because what we want to do is more not just so much for you, it's also for anyone watching this, for the other teachers to be able to pick up points and tips from. And there were obviously some very good things you did there. I noticed you smiled a lot. You felt it looked good. You had this feeling about you that you were someone that students don't feel threatened by. You don't look strange or weird or scary in any way. You seem like a nice guy. You seem very professional. You look good in shirt and the whole thing. And the studio looks great. Coming up the stairs into your studio, it all looks very tidy and organised. So it felt good. You went out and got your folder. You brought that in. That was all organised. So it was a really organised scenario, and that to me would tick pretty well all the boxes to get me through the door. I wouldn't feel after that presentation any reason not to continue with you the lesson. So that's a big plus. What we're looking for really are those students who need more. They may be there for one reason or another. They're not highly motivated. They don't have. Maybe they're cynical. Maybe they're sort of wondering whether or not it's worth spending the money, whether they're better off learning on YouTube. So you've got these people who are going to sit on the fence for different reasons, and we do need to sort of step up the game a little bit for those kind of students. So I wrote a few things down, and other things will probably come to mind. So I'll just sort of work through my list, even though you've already covered one of those points about connecting a little bit more. And that was really the first point I put there, is to make a strong connection in the beginning. And you did, as you sort of went through, you started to make a bit more connection, which was great. Things like checking out her guitar, that's one of the first things I would always do. Whenever a student came in, it was a habit of mine to pick up their guitar and have a look at their guitar and go, and I understand that you probably didn't have that situation because she was holding a computer, not a guitar.
I usually do that. I just check, have a check over it, check the tuning, and yeah. So, yeah. But she got the guitar with us, so it's. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what would you say when you do pick up the guitar? If I'm the student and you've just taken the guitar off me to have a look, what kind of things do you say to me?
So I just ask when did you get the guitar? Did a family member pass it on? Then that gives me more insights to if the family play music. because sometimes a grandparent can give the guitar, or they've just been out and bought it themselves, which might suggest that it's something new in the family that they're doing. So, and then I'll kind of maybe tune the guitar, and then ask a little bit about more what music they like, and then I'll connect with songs and maybe play a bit of a song for them, kind of that stuff, yeah.
Great, good. So you're using the opportunity of the guitar to make a stronger connection and to find some stories. Where did the guitar come from? Who's behind it? Because stories are really good for connecting people. People love telling stories and they love hearing stories. And if you can get them to tell a story, that also leads you to telling a story about. You can go back to your own childhood. When you start to reveal things about yourself, people naturally start to give back a little bit. They want to give a story about themselves. So and also it kind of makes you more real. They see that you were once a kid, you were once a beginner on guitar. You know how it feels to be in their shoes. I would do things like talking about, I know how I felt at my first guitar lesson. I was so nervous. And little kids, they'll smile when they say when you say things like that. Even with adults, an adult might be starting, let's say a 30-year-old adult's having their first guitar lesson, and it's their first guitar lesson. They've turned up. I'll say things like, I've just started learning, might have been at the time Japanese or something else. And so I just did this course, so I know what it's like. I'm an absolute beginner at Japanese, and I'm just learning the language. And look, I know how you feel. It's tough. You've got all these kind of things you want to think. It's exciting, but also a little bit overwhelming. So if I go too fast for you, slow me down. Just say, stop, Dave, I don't understand what you're talking about. So these kind of things, they lighten up the atmosphere. They make the student feel some rapport with you, and that's what you're really building rapport is all about, finding some common ground with your student. What is it that you and they share, and a shared experience is going to bring you together, and that's really powerful. So that's what I'm always looking for. I learned this really through I actually go back to my school days when my parents moved a lot. I recorded that as a child through my year. I stayed in 30 different houses in my childhood. So I moved to different areas. So I was making new friends a lot of the time, even though there was some stability through my high school years. But then I went to a school, and I'm telling you a story now, but then I went to a school, my high school, which was very, very multicultural. Sydney was going through this phase. A lot of people were coming from the countries like Lebanon and Yugoslavia, all the kind of war-torn countries. So it was very, a lot of kids coming from troubled areas, Vietnam, you name it. And we had 51 different cultures at our school. I can't even think of 51 different countries, but apparently that's what we had. So trying to find common ground with people that you really had no common ground with was difficult. And that's where I really learnt to do it. I learned it as a skill because a lot of the minorities, the guys that came from different countries, they felt very intimidated because the English wasn't strong. There was a lot of gang mentality at that time. They were forming different gangs within their nationalities. And so there was a lot of this going on. So you really had to be careful in that situation not to get into trouble with the wrong people. And in fact, us white Australians were to them, often the threat. We were the ones that they were kind of worried about, and so, I learned to sort of bring them all together, to be friends, to say, look, none of that matters. You're a person, I'm a person. Let's just talk and let's get on and let's find that common ground. And so that was one of the things that I learned through my high school years, and that then led me to moving into sales, which was the same thing because living in a very multicultural area of Sydney, a lot of the customers were from different countries. So I had to, and I was very good at knowing a few words in most of their languages, just enough to build some rapport. And then I would give them a story about how, my best mate who, got me onto guitars from Serbia, my other best mate is, is Greek and been to lots of Greek weddings with him, and, and my other mate, is from Vietnam, and, blah, 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 and just to talk about the different foods that they have and things like that, and you make that common ground. And that became really a great lesson for me in making these connections with people, because every time someone comes in, and by the way, I'll just add to that I went traveling a lot. I did a lot of backpacking and loved it, and I still love traveling. And so I was always in environments where I didn't know anyone. Literally from day to day you'd move to a new environment and you had to make new friends. And so I would have to keep every day, I was, not every day, but a lot of times I was having to strike up new conversations and make new friends, make new connections with people. And it became a habit and became very easy after a while, to where you just talk to someone, you ask them, there's a few standard questions like where you're from, what's, in case of guitar, what kind of music do you like, etc., etc. So you just get to build that rapport with people and make the connection, find the common ground. That's really what I'm saying. That's the bottom line of making these connections. So checking out the guitar, what you said there, fantastic, because that's going to help you to find those stories and find those points of connection. The other thing I do, and I know that you've got a very calm, peaceful personality, and that's great. I certainly don't want you to go and change that. But what we are playing a role, and no matter who you are and what position you're in, you're always playing a role. And you've got to understand the best way to play that role. What's the best way to execute a teacher? What is a great coach and a great teacher look like? Now, there's lots of different types of coaches and teachers. Some are very, in Australia, the top rugby league coach, he's not a charismatic guy. He's a very quiet, serious kind of guy, but he has his way of connecting with people. So if you have your way, then follow your way. But what you could probably do is look at some ways to inject a little bit more excitement into your teaching. And again, you don't have to do this. This is something that I'm just suggesting if you want to do it. But again, it's a presentation, and especially when people first arrive, if you throw a little bit more excitement in there, make it seem like you're excited to see them, you're excited to get them started. And I go back to my first guitar teacher, who is really the guy, and my first drum teacher. These two particular teachers were my main influences and mentors. And I remember my first teacher, guitar teacher, even every lesson after that, but it was, "Hi Dave, how are you? Come on in. Great to see you. Come and sit down. What have you been doing? Tell me about your week." And he was really excited. And I remember the first time how he seemed like such a nice guy. I just thought, this guy's such a nice guy. He's so excited. And at the same time, he was very strict, which is kind of almost like a paradox, but he was very strict about what he wanted me to do, and he was very clear about what he wanted me to do. And he didn't, even though he asked me, what are you into, what kind of music do you like, that's great. He didn't teach me much of what I asked him to teach me. He taught me what he knew I had to learn. And that was really very powerful, because he was such a great guy, and I had, and I still communicate with him every now and again now, but I had made such a strong connection with him that when I was at the lesson, I just wanted to follow what he said. I just felt that this guy was, the man. He knew what he was doing, and so take me wherever you're going to take me musically. Let's do it. I'm with you. And that was really, really good for me, because he took me from really being a hacker, guitar player, to within about 6 months, really lifting my level, going from playing, no offense, but playing AC/DC songs was about the extent of my repertoire, to playing, things like Toto and, jazz standards. I think I learned about a dozen jazz standards in that 6-month period. Had never played a jazz note or chord in my life up until that point. And plus he a lot of the more difficult rock stuff, Toto songs and so forth at the time. And then by the end of that year, he'd taken me through a rock school program, got me on stage performing, and out there playing professionally. And he did all that in less than a year. And I did not see that coming. And he was real, and this is why I believe so much in the power of a great coach, is they will take you literally to another level. They will, sometimes kicking and screaming, but they'll take you there. They have this ability to push you beyond what you would push yourself. And that's when every student comes in, what you want to do is look at that student and think, I'm going to take you to somewhere you never imagined possible. And if you have that kind of feeling and that excitement, and you project that across to them, they'll get on board. They will realize that they're with someone special, and that you're the kind of teacher that they feel very lucky to be with. Okay, so that's the excitement thing. And the excitement it can be real. It doesn't have to be fake. It can be a real excitement about what you know you're going to be able to do with these students and how you're going to help them to get to the next level. Does that all make sense so far?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, okay, excellent. So with the, and I think you're aware of these things, and again, I'm not, this is a general thing, really not so much for you, because I know we've spoken about these things before. This is more for people who are watching and want to sort of pick up some tips. So the idea of explaining the process in the folder might need a little bit more explanation in what the folder is, because the way that it came across was that I knew what you were talking about, you knew what you were talking about, but it was a little bit, if I was an absolute beginner, never been there, had no idea what this folder was and what we were about to do, it would seem to me that I wasn't really clear on what's this, what do I do, where do I go. So generally what you do is with the folder, when you present the folder, you want to do it in a way. First of all, I wouldn't go to another room to bring the folder in. I'd have the folder there ready, because again, that gives the impression that you're organised and ready, which you were. That was the only really thing that when you went to the other room. That may be the thing that you do. You may have your folder stacked on a shelf somewhere. But what I did was put the folder on the stand ready for them to go, and I would even have their name on it ready. So I'd say, here's your folder. This is going to be yours to keep. So I made that point, because there's sometimes, oh, okay, what do I do? Is this mine? Is it yours? What happens? Because sometimes they can think it's the teacher's folder. And so now this is yours. This is your student folder, and what we're going to be doing is working through this folder. I'll put your name on it already. I've got my details there so you can see. And don't worry about everything in this folder just right now. I'm going to go through and explain everything very slowly, one step at a time. And if there's things you don't understand, then we'll be able to go over it again. So, are we ready? Good. Let's do it. So you have that kind of, you give them the folder and give it almost like a part of a gift. You're presenting it to them as something special for them, again with their name on it. It's like Christmas has their name on it. They open it up, and this is where they're going to learn guitar. So kind of build a little bit of a build up there with the folder and the whole experience of them coming and joining, getting started. Because when you get into their shoes, sometimes we forget what it's like to be in a beginner's shoes. But in their shoes, they're very excited at that point. They're nervous and excited about learning guitar. They're thinking, wow, this is the point where I'm going to go from dreaming about this stuff to actually doing it. And so it's a big day for them. So that's where I would really go through that process. Just think about whenever you get something new, or you start on a new venture, and you've just done it recently with the eMyth. I'm sure your first consultation, and I could actually feel it through your comments and on the notes, you were probably pretty excited. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you can understand if the coach is not excited as well, you start to think, okay, you start to get a bit of a feeling that the coach is not that excited about this. You want the coach to be excited, because you want the coach to be looking at you going, man, just a few little things to do here and you're going to be hugely rich, dude. You're going to be so successful. That's what you want to hear from the coach. You want the coach to look at you as if you're, watch one of those shows, right? Watch X Factor or Idol or one of those shows, and when one of those contestants comes on and the judge looks, wow, this guy, this is it. This is the guy we've been looking for. They're looking at the other judges and they're thinking, man, how amazing is this? And they're the ones you see, those takes of the judges in the commercials, because that's what everyone else is like, oh, look at the judges, look how excited they are. So you need to be that person in your role as well. You need to, when the student comes in, it's like, again, not fake. What you want to be doing is the excitement of knowing that here's a student who's turned up, they're ready, they've got the potential. You're looking for some things as well to talk about. You're looking for points of strengths. In other words, what kind of music do you listen to? And that, with Emily, I would have said, okay, what do you like, Emily? What are you into? And she might say, oh, I don't know. Just name me a band, name me a song, anything. What do you like? And then often if she would mention something, we know as teachers, when we do this enough and we're hearing what's going on, we know most of, a lot of the pop songs that are going around. So they mention such and such. Oh, you mean this song? Bang, and you just put a little bit of it. Don't overdo it. Just say, oh, is this the song that you're talking about? And you watch them get a little bit excited. Oh wow, you know that song. Yeah, cool. So we're going to be learning those skills. They're the skills that we're going to learn. So you can play those kind of songs. Sound good? Excellent. So getting that connection between what they want to play and what you're about to teach, that is the secret sauce. If they can't see that connection, and that was one of the main things that was missing there, I'm sure you would have gotten to it. There wasn't really a lot of time there, so I understand. But that's what you're trying to get to, is you're trying to make that connection all the way through. It needs to be weaved from the beginning, the first time you meet them, right through to the very last day when they graduate and get their certificates or go off and tour. The connection between their dreams and their passions has to be woven into your lessons and the things that you say. Knowing, all sorts of examples, but just knowing a student likes a particular band. Let's say some kid loves Tool, thinks they're the best thing since ever since the guitar was invented, and so every now and again you just slip it in something. You play a little bit of a song, or you mention them. You go, did you see? I saw a new video. They got a new song out. Is that right? Oh yeah. The new song is fantastic. Have you heard? Yeah. It sounds really good. So is it arpeggio based? Is it chords? What are they doing? Oh, I think it's an arpeggio. Yeah. So you throw in little teasers, like little things to keep them on board, keep them excited, and keep them thinking why they're there. And I think that's the important point, that they know that you haven't forgotten why they're there, and they're there because they want to be able to play the songs of their favourite bands and singers. Does that make sense? All good? Okay. All right. So I'll just wrap up a couple of other points here quickly. So talking about what music she likes from a point of view of getting the emotional reasons behind why she wants to play. So want a job as a musician, career, that's not emotional. What's the emotion? Why do you really want to? Why did you become a doctor? Because I want to save lives. Because I watched a person die when I was young, and I don't want it to happen to anyone that I know or love. So I became a doctor. That's the passion behind why someone becomes a doctor. The passion behind why someone becomes a musician is usually I grew up with this band. I love this band. I love this music, and every day I used to listen to it, and I just love this stuff. That's what I want to do with my life. I want to play music. So understanding and tapping into those things are really what's going to make things. And remember that people are very changeable. Even though people do get stuck on sort of fixed ideas and thoughts and patterns and paths in life, people are changeable. They can change what they're doing and take different directions in life. And when someone comes to with a guitar, they're dipping their toe in the water. They're deciding, is this what I want to do? And it's what I feel like doing, is what I really want to do, but am I really? And what happens is that if we don't keep that fire alive, they will often go off somewhere else and guitar's not for me, music's not for me, I'm going to be a surfer, I'm going to be a rower, I'm going to be a racing car driver, whatever it is, they find something else. So we have an opportunity, and the opportunity is strongest when they first sign up to lessons. So that's why we want to find out what that emotional driver is. The only other thing I'd say there is to just use more positive words. Put in things like fantastic, really good, great. And again, you don't have to be fake. Just do what feels natural to you, but go with things that feel good for you and to help to lift the student and make them feel good about being there. So.
How would you tap in? So if you say, your favorite band, and say it's just like, oh, I like rock music, or I like pop music. How do you then turn that then into an emotional conversation? How would you spin that around?
Okay, so if someone's general, I like rock. Excellent, cool. What kind of rock? What kind of bands do you like? That's what I want to know. What bands? What songs? Give me some specifics. And some people often in that first lesson they'll be shy and they'll go, oh, it's lots of bands I can't really remember right now. Okay, that's cool. And so then I'll make some suggestions based on what I think that they might like, and throw a few songs out there based on their age group, where they're at. Do you know this song? Do you know that song? And even play a song for them. Play a song and say, do you like this kind of music? and just try and get a bit of a response from them. What you're trying to do is find where the emotion is. There are different ways to get to the emotion. One is to be talking about the bands, and you'll find that, I don't know, 70%, 80% of people will tell you the name of a band they like or the name of some songs they like. So most people will be fine, but you will get that 15, 20% of people who will say things like, they'll be very generic. It'll be, I like rock, or I like blues, or I like jazz. And that's okay too. Again, go for the big names in those genres and play them a little bit of something and say, do you like this, do you like that? And then just sort of, hone in on what they like. And then for that small number, which is only a small number who don't give it, don't push it, just say, no worries, look, if you think of something, let me know. And then go and check their Facebook page and you'll see the bands they like.
I've done that before. And I had one student who started and she was like into Metallica, and so as soon as she brought her guitar, I tuned it and I started playing Metallica, and she was like, like, how does he know?
I'm reading your mind.
But I did say, look, I've been on your Facebook page. But so some adults, and this is another one that they'll turn around and say, oh, I just like everything, and you're just like, where do I start with that? I just like all different styles, and it's.
That's a great response. Like everything, fantastic. Let's do a few ABBA classics tonight. How's that sound? Oh well, I don't like ABBA. You liked everything. Make a joke of it. Don't be sarcastic, but just make a bit of fun out of it. And again, if they say that they like everything, say, well, you're going to love the PGM because it's got everything in it. You're going to love these songs. Saints Go Marching In, Star Spangled Banner, all the classics are there. You're going to love it. Then they start. What you tend to find is most people will say, I'm open to everything, and it's more, and even I say that. People say, what kind of music you like? So I like good music, whatever it happens to be. If it's good and appeals to me, I like it. But if you want some specifics, I can name some bands for you. Grew up in Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Toto, the whole Lukather thing. I like some Satriani stuff. So I can go through a whole bunch of groups and bands and guitarists for quite a while and give you things that I like. So it really depends. If you ask me the question straight up, I don't want to. What people are sometimes afraid of, and me too, is that we don't want to be locked into one thing. If I say I like, Steve Lukather, so you're a Steve Lukather guy, are you? Well, no, I like Lukather, but it's not the only thing I like. I like a big range of things, a big range of styles, but that's just one thing that I do like. So, yeah. Okay, cool. So we'll leave that there, and what I'll do is I'll get Trevor to jump in now, because Trevor wants to also now talk about masterclasses, and he ran one on the weekend, I think, with with Bernie Tomlin, is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Yep. And Trevor said he had about 17 people turn up, which was great. That's a great turnout for your first masterclass, and from all reports, it went well, and Bernie put on a good show for everybody, and things went well. What's your take on it? Can you give me some feedback, Trevor?
It's the first one, so I didn't really know what to expect. He's doesn't do them that often, so he basically just had some backing tracks, and then it was really down to how much involvement there was going to be from the audience. And I was thinking, oh God, if he only does like 5 songs and nobody says anything, it's going to be over in sort of 20 minutes. So I kind of had a few questions primed up just to sort of get the ball rolling. But it was actually good because people, once the initial kind of ice was broken, he was very kind of friendly and relaxed and approachable, and so people were kind of chiming in with all kinds of questions, and there was a big range of levels. So it was from the most basic questions up to what strings did you use and all this kind of stuff. And it went on really well, and at the end he had a kind of jam with a few people who turned up who were kind of fans. It was a really nice day, and I think it was quite inspirational. There's one kid there who was 7 years old who sat right down the front, and it was pretty loud because he plays, you know, he had a full Marshall stack, which in a small room it is pretty full on, and I think the little kid probably hadn't been to a gig or experienced anything of that volume, but you know, his mum was there and said, you know, you'll have to get used to it if he wants to be a rock star. So apart from that, I think everybody else was pretty blown away by him, and yeah, I was really happy with it in the end.
Excellent, excellent. Well, the thing is that, you know, like most things, the first one's the hardest, and it's the one that you're going to really get the most experience from to do your second one. So the next one is Guthrie Govan, is that right?
That's it, yeah, on November the 8th.
Yep.
So, yeah, because really, I mean,
what's the date of that? September?
It's November the 8th.
November the 8th, and that'll be in Horsham?
Yes, yeah.
Excellent.
Yes.
And if anyone wants to get, just because some people will see this video, so if anyone wants to get tickets for that, they can just type G4 Guitar Horsham and find you on Facebook.
Yes, G4 Guitar School Horsham. If they just visit me, and then there'll be links on there, they can get tickets, and it'll have details of the venue and all the rest of it on there. I mean, because my only sort of question about it is, as much as anything, because it was good publicity value for me. I mean, I had some stuff in the paper, and it kind of, you know, sort of, I think it's raised my profile a bit on the local music scene doing this. So from that point of view, it was beneficial. Financially, it wasn't so great, which is okay, but I mean, the Guthrie Govan class is going to be more expensive because his fee is going to be that much higher, and it's just trying to get some ideas about sort of monetizing it, really, because I think the general thing is that most of the guys who do these master classes aren't keen on them being videoed, because they feel it kind of devalues what they're doing, because people can just go on YouTube and watch one rather than, you know, actually attending one, and they don't have control over how it gets used and so on, which I kind of appreciate, you know, so obviously I respect that. And I don't want to I'm wary about over subscribing it, you know. I mean, if I had the luxury of having 100 people who wanted to turn up, that would be great, but then it becomes more of a gig rather than a masterclass, and you lose that the kind of personal aspect of people being able to ask questions and kind of see what's going on and so on.
Yeah.
And I don't get the feeling that there's a lot of leverage on the ticket prices, because I was struggling to sort of sell tickets at £20 a shout, which, you know, I know if you go for a gig these days, you're going to be paying more than £20 for a ticket, and this is a lot more intimate than a gig, but people in Horsham are somewhat parsimonious, I guess you could say, when it comes to paying out. You know, normally people used to pay sort of £3 or something to get a ticket for an event, so getting people to part with £20 was proving difficult. So yeah, it's just kind of getting ideas for that, because it's going to be quite expensive to be doing them regularly, and although they're nice to do and it gives extra value to the students, it would be nice if I could monetize them a little more, so that at least I can break even on them.
Okay. Look, what I would say with the master classes is that they're not all equal. So you can't, you know, if you're going to have a big name, and Guthrie Govan is not a small name anymore. He's working alongside. He's the guitarist, and there's a lot of guys who are intermediate to advanced players that would love to spend an afternoon with him and see what he can do. So I don't know how many workshops he's doing, and so what I'm going to do is go through a couple of things here that you've mentioned to give you my take on it. Number one is that I don't think any of them are against being videoed. I think what they're against is a video being done that they're not going to capitalize on in any way. They want to know, in other words, if you said to him, look, I'm going to do the video of you, and then I'm going to do this and that, and what we're going to do with it is then get you more money for it. So we're going to promote you and you know, sell more tickets to your next event, etc., etc. Or we can sell the video. So what you can do is you could put the video on a member site, and then you could sell memberships to that site, which would then get, for example, if you had a masterclass website and you recorded, videoed all these masterclasses you did and uploaded them to that site, and then sold memberships, and then gave the particular artists are split on the revenue based on, it could be something whether they nominate which artists they want to see. There's lots of different ways. You just got to come up with a way that they know that when you do the video that they're still going to capitalize on that somehow, because it really is, in my opinion, that's why I record these sessions. Anything that you do, in the same with Guthrie, anything that he does that's not recorded is really, he's just wasted his time. He's really, it's really like doing a recording of a song that you don't record. So you write a song, you perform a song for a bunch of friends, but you never record it, and therefore that song never gets heard. If the Beatles did songs that were played and performed for just a handful of people that have never been heard, were never recorded, imagine what those songs would be worth today if they were recorded. And so you can see the lost value in people are bidding thousands of dollars for a used piece of John Lennon clothing. Imagine what a song would be worth. And there were songs like that. There were songs that those guys would have written, that they would have played at certain points in their career, and they didn't record them at the time, and the song got lost. So this is what happens when Guthrie Govan comes and does a performance, and that's what I'd be saying to him. You're doing a workshop here, you're going to be here for 2 hours or however long the workshop is, the masterclass, and it's never going to be seen again. Only the people who are there at the workshop will ever see that. So you've lost that, and that could become something very special. What if you become the next Eddie Van Halen or the next Jimi Hendrix? What if in 20 or 30 years people are talking about you, Guthrie, as being the guy? What if you're part of a band that becomes the biggest band on the planet? And here are these lost moments that weren't recorded. So I would say to him to record it. That I would be making that plea to him. Let's record it, but you can retain the rights to it. You can keep it. Even if you just give it to him as a gift and say it's all yours, I think for him, it's just as a gesture not to record every single workshop he does is not a smart move. He really should record every single workshop he does. He's a special player, and every moment that he's out there showing people and teaching should be caught on camera.
I think part of it is that he's been bitten before by people who've said, "Oh yeah, look, this is only going to be for an exclusive audience," and blah blah blah. And the next thing he knows, it's all over YouTube and it just gets circulated. So I think he kind of feels like, I tried pitching it to him, but I think he's going to be a bit reluctant in that he doesn't know me. I could say to him, "Oh yeah, don't worry, I'll make sure you retain all the rights to it," and then the next thing, I'm selling it off or just giving it away to people or whatever. So I'll try it, but I think he's pretty resistant to it. For the first one, maybe, I don't know, perhaps it might be if I get him back again and he knows me a little better, perhaps I might persuade him then.
You don't necessarily have to try and push it onto him. It's more talk to him almost as a friend, as as an admirer, just as a complete respect for him as a player and as a person. Just say, I think your time and your presence is so valuable that it'd be great to capture it. And sure, I would love a copy of it, but it's yours. We'll record it, and you can do what you like with it. So I would even go as far as doing that. But I would also say that even though there's been videos of him recorded and thrown around on the internet. And I remember one video that I saw of him where he did kind of a one-handed legato, and I know that wasn't one of his videos. It was someone in the class had done it on their mobile, and it went viral. I think, I don't know how many views it got, but it got well over 1 million views. I would find it very hard for him to sort of say that wasn't a good thing, even though his exposure on YouTube has been nothing but positive for him. It's really been the thing. I don't know that he would be where he is without YouTube. That's debatable, of course, but I think his exposure, I don't know where you guys first saw him, but that's where I saw him, was on YouTube.
I think YouTube can be a bit of a double-edged sword for some people, though. I know, this guy called Phil X, who's a big sort of YouTube star. He got the gig with Bon Jovi through his YouTube channel and stuff, and he said, you know, he can't afford to have an off day, because if he does, somebody's going to video it and stick it on YouTube, and then there's him playing, you know, some band that are out of tune or something like that, and it's like, oh my God, Phil X is awful, sort of thing. So it's like, I suppose if you don't have the control over it, it can be dangerous. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah. It's one of those. It's a very interesting thing, because it's one of those things where the artist wants to present their best side at all times, and it's. I guess there's two sides to it, and I definitely know what you're saying, is that there can be, you know, that exposure, but I think that's more about the artist's ego than anything. There's footage there. You know, you can take someone like, you know, for lack of a better example, the most popular kid on the planet, Bieber. You know, he's had some shocking press in recent times of him being drunk and you know, being unruly and all the rest of it. It's done him no damage at all. I think his latest song is, I saw something like, you know, #1 in 140 different countries. It really has had no effect on his career. So I think that, you know, I think of a lot of these celebrities, Karen Gash or whatever her name is. I don't even know what she's famous for, but she seems to be, you know, a lot of ridiculous things happening there, but it helps with their publicity. So it really depends on what they're trying to achieve, I guess, and whether or not they're trying to keep up a certain reputation. So the other thing about the masterclass is that, like I said, they're not all equal. So you don't have to think about charging £20 for every single masterclass that comes up. In other words, some people are only going to, £20 is what people are going to pay, where other people will happily pay £50 or £100, depending on the artist and depending on you know, who they are. And I know that there will definitely be people out there. I would happily pay, you know, £100 is like 200 Australian dollars. I would happily pay $200 to go and sit in front of someone like Guthrie and spend a couple of hours with him, especially if I knew there wasn't a big crowd there, and I was going to be able to sort of sit with him and you know, talk to him for a little while and just make the connection with him. Just to be able to, you know, connect with the guy would be fantastic. Just to talk a little bit about his career and where he's come. I'm just talking about from my point of view of G4, not even as a guitarist, but as someone who has a business involved in teaching guitar. Then I would be interested in making that connection with him. So I think that with someone like him, then there are going to be different kinds of clients. So if we go to what happens these days, if you want to go and see the Rolling Stones or Police or any of these sort of, you know, 80s, 70s, 80s big bands today, which sort of charge a premium, you've got different seats. You've got seats way up the back, which will cost you, I don't know what they're in the UK, but in Australia you can get them for under $100 to go and see the Stones. Or if you want to sit down in the front section, you could be paying as much as $1,000 a ticket. So how would that work for you? How could you get different tiered levels within a masterclass with Guthrie? I think probably what you could do is have sections, maybe 2 sections or 3 sections, and then you could have the front section where they're up close and personal with Guthrie, and they also get to ask questions. So people in that sort of VIP section are able to be the ones to ask questions. They're also the ones that Guthrie might ask to jam with him, and maybe even stay after for an after party or something like that, after drinks or whatever. And then you have your second, where the cheaper seats, they're back a bit further, and those guys, they just get to watch. I'm just thinking out loud, but do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, no, that makes, because I think, you know, I mean, I'm thinking that this is one where there's potential to get people from outside Horsham and outside G4 involved in it, because I I actually had to change the date because somebody booked him to do a tour of the Far East, doing, you know, guitar clinics and stuff there, and so there's a lot of people who want him. So I think you're right. If I sell it in the right way, it's not something that just has to be for students and for local people. It's probably, I'm thinking, in a bit too narrow a focus maybe.
Look, and you're in one of the wealthiest, areas in the world. Maybe Horsham isn't it, but you're only a stone's throw away from, many, many very wealthy people around London. We tend to hear about the people screaming poor, but you're still in the epicenter of one of the richest areas in the world. So there are plenty of guys around there with money, plenty of enthusiasts, plenty of people who would really happy to pay whatever price. And it really comes down to priorities. I use this example all the time. I've got a friend who can't afford to pay his rent, can't afford to buy a new car. His car's like in terrible condition. This is a friend in Sydney. Yeah, he owns $100,000 worth of guitars. It's like, go figure. The guy can always afford to buy a new, collector's item guitar. He'll ring me up tomorrow and say, "Oh, I just got this new Gibson 57, blah blah blah. Man, it's one of a kind. You got to see it." Dude, did you pay your rent? Oh, I'm struggling, but you've managed it. I think you guys have seen that slogan or that T-shirt around, which I sold my guitar collection. Something about I told my wife my guitar collection. I can't remember how it goes, but I told my wife my guitar collection was worthless, and then she went and sold it on me. But
yeah, I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, his wife is just like that. She has no idea what his guitar collection is worth. She just thinks they're all like $200-300 guitars, and he's sitting on, some of those guitars are worth thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got guys out there who will pay the premium price, but they've got to get the VIP treatment, and it could be a situation where they get to come earlier. Maybe you run it from, I don't know, whatever the time is, and maybe your VIPs can come in a bit earlier and get to meet him personally, like just have some drinks or whatever.
Right.
And do you know what I mean? And bring them in,
Yeah.
serve drinks and snacks for those guys. Have a chat. They'll get to be introduced to him personally. I can't remember who it was. Someone did that, like Satriani or someone did that, where he had those VIP tickets when he came to Australia, and you could get to meet him personally rather than just be in the crowd.
I think a lot of bands do it now, don't they? I know Kiss do a meet and greet where you pay like $1,000, $2,000, and you get photographed with them backstage or whatever, and the sort of extra treatment that you can have.
Yeah, it's the VIP, and people now, they expect it. People sort of think, well, what are the options? Because it used to be luck. It used to be when I think you guys would have experienced this, but when I used to go to concerts, I remember it was all, you had to wait 2 days before the gig, line up when big band came to town, fight your way to the front and hope you got a front row, up front in the crowd, and that was the only way. There was no other way. But nowadays it's all about, if you've got the money, you get the seat.
There's a lot more price points.
Yeah, a lot more price points. Yeah, they're really catering for it, and they're really, making the most out of it. And it also makes it affordable for the people who can't afford those prices, because you've got this sort of tiered pricing. So you've got the people who've got the money, who can afford. I went and saw Roger Waters' The Wall. Most amazing performance I've ever seen. Like what they did with the stage and everything was just absolutely mind-blowing. And the cost of that, they said it was something like, it cost them $2 or $3 million a night to put the show on. So every night, costing them millions of dollars. And it's like, how can they afford this? And when we went there, because we just bought standard tickets, and we still got an amazing show from where we were, but there were people who were paying thousands of dollars to be in that front area. So that was, and that's how they tier the pricing. And that's, if you want to run your masterclass, that's my suggestion. That's my big one, is maybe tier the prices, create a VIP section, and take it from there. What I'll do is, Ben has said, Trevor, I'll definitely like to come to the Guthrie Masterclass and take one of his friends. So Ben, give us your take on this. How would you feel? What inspires you to want to go and see this masterclass?
I've seen him before, and he's just a really good talker. He tells stories in a really interesting way, and they're all related to guitar in some way. And obviously he's a great player, so you can ask him any questions. The main thing I'd want to ask him is what he'd consider the most important thing in each skill, because you can definitely get a G4 take on, get his kind of take on the G4 skills and think, well, if I could only play one scale, it would be this one. Or the order in which I'd teach the scales would be this, because that's how much I use them. And then obviously I could say, well, with the aristocrats, you're playing much more unusual stuff. And then with kind of a Dizzy Rascal session, obviously it can still be unusual, but then it's not going to be so out there in the sound, I'm guessing, more frequently than not. So you can get all sorts of different... I think he's just a really interesting guy as well. All the YouTube stuff I've seen of him talking. Good opinions.
Yeah, I agree.
And then obviously support Trevor's masterclasses, because I completely forgot about the Bernie Tormo one, actually.
Sorry, what was that last comment? I missed it.
I was saying I forgot about the Bernie Tormo one, but I'd like to support Trevor's masterclasses anyway. After all, he's less than an hour's drive from me.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Ben. It'd be nice to have you here.
Well, I'm definitely going to be entering down for the Guthrie one.
And I think, I think I agree with what Ben's saying. You know, when I've seen him in video, he's someone that I like watching. You know, when I see a video pop up, I've watched, I don't know, maybe 15 of his videos at different points in different places. And yeah, I enjoy not just his playing, but the way that he talks as well. You know, he has a certain way about him. And even though he talks about him being a self-taught guitarist, he's someone who's been very hungry to learn as well. That's really, and I think, we're not saying, I would never say that being, a teacher is the only way. There are many ways to succeed on guitar. It's just that that in my experience, teachers can really help and give you different perspectives. But other people, like your Hendrixes of the world and your Guthrie Goblins of the world, they go out and seek out people and learn, and they're hungry for knowledge.
When people say self-taught, I always just think of an article I read a while ago. It's not exactly self-taught, it's just I learned from records, or I learned from playing with people who are better than me. Yeah,
exactly. It was. I remember a quote from what was the guitarist's name? I'm forgetting I've got so many quotes in my head, but anyway, he said that unless you grew up in the jungle by yourself and cut down a tree and carved it into a guitar, nothing is original. Nothing is self-taught. It's all coming from somewhere. And that's the fact, is that it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, you're probably learning from someone somehow, in some way.
Yeah.
So I think the masterclasses are fantastic, Trevor, and this can be something that you really can be your thing, and I'm going to support you as much as possible, and it sounds like some of the other members are going to be behind you as well. And I think like most things, when you first start doing it, everyone's like, oh yeah, let's see how long Trevor lasts with this, let's see if he loses interest after one or two masterclasses. But that's the test. That's what people are looking for. They're looking to see how long that you stay with it, and the longer you stay with it, the more they start to see you as the masterclass guy.
And the better you get.
Yep, exactly. The better you get, you learn from your own mistakes, you learn from the experience, and also you make contacts. Now you're meeting Guthrie, and you've done that workshop. It's going to be much easier for you to approach other people because that's the first thing people often do, is they want to check your background. Who are you? Oh, you're the guy that did the Guthrie Goblin workshop masterclass. All right, okay, no problem. Talk to me. What's it about? So your credibility starts to come up, and you're probably going to be pretty lucky to get him, because in a year or two it will probably get a lot harder to get him to do a workshop as he gets busier. I'm surprised that you even managed to get one. So yeah, I think it's going to be...
So am I, but there you go. If you don't ask, you don't get.
That's it. You stepped up, and it's paid off. A good book to read for you on this is David Fishoff's book. It's on my list. Just have a look. It's basically, he wrote. He's the guy who started the rock and roll camps what are they called?
Bandcamp, was it, or something? Oh, not Bandcamp. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
I know the one you mean.
You know what I mean? They're the rock and roll band camps, and they've now got a permanent gig in Vegas, and they've had, when he first started doing it, he was trying to get these big names in to do it, and now he's good friends with Roger Daltrey, and he's had a whole stream of different people come in. I think he's even had a couple of the guys. I think he's had Paul Stanley involved in it.
Right, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and he's had guys from the Eagles, from Guns N' Roses.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I should have had my phone
Right.
on silent.
I thought you were killing that in for a song. So yeah, lots of examples that he's brought into his gigs to really make them, and now he's got franchises all around the world. It's huge. The whole thing's massive now. So yeah, it's just, and he built his credibility. He had to really knock on some doors for a while, but then as he built his credibility, then more and more people were interested in what he was doing.
Right.
So we've run out of time. We've actually gone a bit over time. So, but hopefully that helps, Trevor. And if you've got more questions, just email me, and I'll happily, I'm with you all the way on this. So whatever you need.
Thank you. Great.
All right. So just that date again before we finish is November
The 8th.
the 8th. And what day is that?
That's a Sunday. Sunday
Sunday,
afternoon
okay.
it'll be.
Sunday afternoon, November the 8th. All right. For anyone in
Are they
the
already
UK.
on sale, Trevor?
Beg your pardon?
Are they already on sale?
Not yet, no, because I'm going to have a little think about what David's mentioned about price pointing it and work out some price points before I start selling the tickets. So I wanted to talk to David before I started putting it on sale, really.
Yeah. The other thing I would do too is offer an early bird price. So you send it out, make the price whatever it is, £40 a ticket, and then send out an early bird offer. And that way you get some ticket sales early, and then you can think a little bit more about whether you need more chairs or whatever.
Okay, cool.
All right. Excellent.
Where are you going to put them on sale, Trevor? It's going to be on your website.
It'll be through my website, yes, and I'll put a link onto Facebook as well for that. So, but I'll contact you directly and let you know because I know you're obviously local and interested. So I'll let you know so you can get the early bird option.
Awesome. I've definitely got 4 students who I'm going to mention it to because I know they might be interested. So.
Fantastic. I might have to look at a bigger venue then.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, it'll be fun. It'll be interesting to see what we can rally, and we'll have a talk about it again maybe in a couple of weeks just to sort of bring us up to date on this. So maybe in 2 weeks, Trevor, just raise this topic again, and we'll bring everyone up to date on it.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for your time and dropping in, and thanks, Dave, for that very special introduction to your school, and thanks to Emily as well. That was fantastic.
Dave,
All right.
will we be picking it up the second part next week? Is that the plan?
Yep, that's the plan. We're gonna go into the next bit from there. So we'll pick up more or less from the end of where you were there, basically after you've gone through the practice log from that point on.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Trevor.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later.